She woke up to a stranger's cold stare and the hum of engines beneath her feet. Not the crowded cabin she remembered boarding, not the crying babies or cramped middle seat she'd resigned herself to. This was leather. Silence. Champagne glasses gleaming in soft light. "You're in my seat." His voice cut through the fog of her exhausted brain like ice water. Mia's stomach dropped. Through the window, clouds stretched endlessly below. No airport, no ground, just sky. She wasn't on her flight. She was on his private jet, 30,000 feet up. And there was nowhere to run. If you want to see how this impossible situation unfolds, stay with me until the end. And hey, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now let's rewind to where it all began. Ethan Blake didn't do chaos. Not in boardrooms. Not in his meticulously organized home. And certainly not on his private jet, where every detail, from the temperature to the flight path, was planned weeks in advance. Yet here he stood, staring at a woman curled up in his seat like she owned it. Her dark hair spilled across the cream leather headrest. One arm dangled off the armrest, fingers twitching slightly in sleep. Her clothes were wrinkled, jeans with a frayed hem, a faded sweater that had seen better years, sneakers that should have been replaced months ago. A canvas bag sat at her feet, stuffed so full the zipper had given up halfway. She didn't belong here. Nothing about this made sense. "Sir?" Marcus, his longtime pilot, appeared in the cabin doorway, his face pale. I checked the manifest twice. I don't understand how—" "Save it." Ethan's voice was flat. He'd built a billion-dollar empire by solving problems, not listening to excuses. "We're already airborne. How long until we can turn around?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "We're over the Atlantic now. Turning back would mean how? Long. 7 hours to Paris. 9 if we reroute to New York. Weather systems over the Atlantic won't clear until—" Christ! Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. 7 hours. 7 hours trapped at 35,000 feet with a stranger who'd somehow breached every security protocol he'd paid a fortune to install. The woman stirred, mumbling something incoherent, her face scrunched up like she was having a bad dream. For a brief second, Ethan felt something almost like sympathy. Then he remembered she was in his seat, on his plane, disrupting his schedule. The sympathy evaporated. "Wake her up," he told Marcus. "Sir, maybe we should—" "Now." Marcus hesitated, then moved forward, reaching out to gently shake her shoulder. Miss, you need to—" The woman's eyes flew open. For a moment, she just blinked up at Marcus, confused and disoriented. Then her gaze shifted past him to Ethan, standing with his arms crossed, his expression carved from stone. Her face went through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, recognition, horror. "Oh my God!" Her voice was hoarse from sleep. She sat up too quickly, the sudden movement making her sway. "Oh my God, You're on my plane," Ethan said, each word clipped and precise. "You're in my seat, and you're going to explain how you got here in the next 30 seconds, or I'm having you arrested the moment we land." Mia's brain refused to process the words. Plane, his plane, my seat. She looked around wildly. The interior was nothing like the cramped cabin she remembered. Everything was cream and chrome and soft lighting. There were only 8 seats total, each one big enough to be a small couch. Through the windows, she saw only clouds and sky. Her mouth felt like sandpaper. "I was supposed to be on the 6 a.m. to Chicago. I had a ticket. I checked in. Chicago." Ethan's jaw tightened. "This is a private charter to Paris. So unless you're incredibly lost, you're going to need a better explanation than that." "I don't have a better explanation." Mia's voice cracked. She pressed her hands to her face, trying to think past the exhaustion that still clouded everything. "I was up for 36 hours straight. The kid I nanny got sick, really sick, and I spent all night at the ER with him because his parents were out of town and I couldn't just leave him alone. And then I had to get to the airport because I was supposed to fly home to see my mom, because she's been asking for months, and I finally saved enough for a ticket." She was rambling. She knew she was rambling, but the words kept spilling out, fueled by panic and sleep deprivation, and the dawning realization that she'd somehow screwed up in a way she couldn't begin to fix. "And I was so tired I could barely see straight. And when they called for boarding, I just followed everyone and I must have gone through the wrong gate. And I sat down and I thought it was weird that it was so nice, but I just figured maybe I got lucky with an upgrade or something because sometimes that happens, right? And I was so tired, I fell asleep. I didn't mean to. I swear I didn't mean to. Silence fell over the cabin. Ethan stared at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into the cockpit and pretend this wasn't happening. You boarded the wrong plane, Ethan said slowly. You walked past security, onto a private tarmac, up the stairs of a jet that wasn't yours, and you didn't notice. I was tired, Mia's voice rose, defensive. I know how it sounds, okay? I know. But I swear I didn't do this on purpose. Why would I do this on purpose? Do you know how insane that would be? I'm still deciding. Ethan's eyes, a cold, calculating gray, swept over her, assessing. Looking for lies, she realized. Looking for angles. What's your name? Mia. Mia Lawson. Mia Lawson. He said it like he was filing it away for later. And you're a nanny. Yes. In New York. Brooklyn. Yeah. Who were you flying to see in Chicago? My mom. She lives in Evanston. Mia's hands twisted together in her lap. Look, I know this is completely messed up. I know. But I promise you, this was an accident. A really, really stupid accident. If you can just, I don't know, land somewhere, anywhere, I'll get off and figure out how to get home and you'll never see me again. We're over the Atlantic, Ethan said. The nearest airport is 3 hours away, minimum. And if I divert this flight, I miss a meeting in Paris that's been scheduled for 6 months. A meeting that will cost me approximately $40 million if I'm not there. Mia's stomach sank. 40 million. Give or take. Jesus. She looked down at her lap, at her cheap jeans and scuffed sneakers, and wanted to disappear. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what else to say. Ethan watched her for a long moment. She looked miserable, hunched in on herself like she could physically shrink away from the situation. Her eyes were red-rimmed from exhaustion, her skin pale. She was telling the truth. He'd dealt with enough liars to recognize honesty when he saw it, which made this whole situation even more absurd. Marcus, he said, not looking away from Mia. We're continuing to Paris. Notify the crew. And get me Mitchell on the phone. Tell him we have a situation. Yes, sir. Marcus disappeared into the cockpit so fast he nearly tripped. Mia's head snapped up. Paris? I can't go to Paris. I don't have a passport. I don't have... You should have thought of that before you boarded a plane to France. I didn't board a plane to France. I boarded what I thought was a completely different plane. And yet here you are. Ethan moved to the seat across from her, the one he'd originally intended to sit in, and dropped into it with the easy grace of someone who'd spent half his life traveling. 7 hours. That's how long until we land. You can spend them panicking, or you can accept that this is happening and make the best of it. Mia stared at him. Make the best of it? I just accidentally stowed away on a billionaire's private jet. I'm pretty sure there's no making the best of this. Billionaire. The corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile. You know who I am? I didn't until about 2 minutes ago, but yeah, I figured it out. Ethan Blake, Blake Industries. I've seen your face on magazines at the dentist's office. Dentist's office? Fantastic. He loosened his tie. Custom, she noticed, probably worth more than her entire month's rent, and leaned back. Let me be clear about something, Mia Lawson. I don't know you. I don't trust you. And the only reason I'm not having you detained the second we land is because I'm choosing to believe this ridiculous story of yours is actually true. But if I find out you're lying, if this is some kind of setup or publicity stunt or attempt to... Setup? Are you serious right now? Mia's exhaustion was rapidly being replaced by indignation. You think I planned this? You think I wanted to accidentally board a stranger's plane and end up trapped over the Atlantic? What would I even gain from that? Money, fame, a lawsuit settlement. Ethan ticked them off on his fingers. I've had people try more elaborate schemes for less. Well, I'm not people. I'm just someone who made a really stupid mistake because I was too tired to function like a normal human being. She grabbed her bag from the floor, hugging it against her chest like a shield. And for the record, if I was going to try to scam a billionaire, I'd pick one who seems less likely to have me thrown in jail. Something flickered across Ethan's face. Surprise, maybe. Or amusement. It was gone too quickly to tell. Fair enough, he said. So what now? What now? Mia blinked. You're asking me? You're stuck on this plane for 7 hours. I'm stuck with you for 7 hours. We can spend them in hostile silence, or we can figure out a way to make this tolerable. Tolerable? Mia repeated. Right. Okay. Well, I guess I'll just... She looked around the cabin helplessly. Sit here? And try not to touch anything expensive? There's a bedroom in the back. You look like you're about to collapse. I'm fine. You're asleep on your feet. Ethan stood, already moving toward the rear of the plane. Come on. I need to make some calls anyway, and I'd rather not have you passing out in the middle of the cabin. Mia hesitated, then followed. What choice did she have? The bedroom was small but impossibly luxurious. A full-size bed dominated the space, covered in what looked like Egyptian cotton sheets. There was a small bathroom attached, gleaming marble and gold fixtures. You're joking, Mia said. I don't joke about sleep. Ethan gestured to the bed. A few hours. Then we'll figure out what to do when we land. You're being surprisingly nice about this. Don't mistake efficiency for kindness. You're a problem I can't solve right now, so I'm containing you until I can. He paused in the doorway. But for what it's worth, I believe you. About the accident. Why? He glanced back at her. Because no one would willingly put themselves in this situation. It's too messy, too uncontrolled. Then he was gone, pulling the door shut behind him. Mia stood there for a long moment, staring at the closed door. Then she sat down on the edge of the bed, her legs finally giving out. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. But the gentle hum of the engines beneath her said otherwise. Bontum. 3 hours later, Mia emerged from the bedroom to find Ethan exactly where she'd left him, working on a laptop with the focused intensity of someone who'd forgotten the rest of the world existed. He didn't look up when she approached. Better? I guess. She'd splashed water on her face in the bathroom, tried to finger comb her hair into something presentable. It hadn't helped much. Thank you for the bed. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Whatever he was working on had his complete attention. Mia stood there awkwardly for a moment, then moved to the seat across from him. Through the window, the sun was starting to set, painting the clouds in shades of orange and gold. It was beautiful, surreal. She'd never been on a plane like this before. The longest flight she'd ever taken was 4 hours, crammed in a middle seat between a snoring businessman and a kid who wouldn't stop kicking her chair. This was different, quiet, almost peaceful if you ignored the fact that she was hurtling toward a foreign country without a passport or a plan. Can I ask you something? She said. Ethan's typing slowed but didn't stop. If I say no, will it stop you? Probably not. Then go ahead. What's in Paris? A meeting. The $40 million one? Yes. What kind of meeting is worth $40 million? Now he did look up. His eyes were sharp, assessing. The kind that decides whether my company acquires another company or whether I spend the next 6 months watching my competitors do it instead. That sounds stressful. It is. So why do it? The question seemed to catch him off guard. He sat back, closing the laptop. What do you mean? I mean, Mia gestured vaguely. You're already rich, successful. You could probably retire tomorrow and live comfortably for the rest of your life. So why keep going? Why keep having these $40 million meetings? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Is this the part where you tell me money doesn't buy happiness? I wasn't going to, but since you brought it up, she smiled slightly. Does it? No. The answer came quickly, without hesitation. But it buys security, control, the ability to make sure the people who depend on you are taken care of. People like who? His expression shuddered, just slightly. That's not really your business. Right. Sorry. Mia looked away, heat creeping up her neck. I didn't mean to pry. Another silence fell. This one felt heavier somehow. Then Ethan sighed. I have a son, Noah. He's 5. Mia's head whipped back around. You have a kid? Is that surprising? I don't know. I guess I didn't picture you as the dad type. What type did you picture me as? The kind who sleeps 4 hours a night and thinks vacation is a sign of weakness. He almost smiled. Almost. You're not entirely wrong. So where's Noah now? With his nanny, at home. You have a nanny. Of course he did. What's she like? Professional, efficient, expensive. Does Noah like her? Ethan's brow furrowed. I assume so. She's been with us for 2 years. You assume. He's never complained. That's not the same thing as liking someone. Mia leaned forward slightly. Kids don't always say when something's wrong. Sometimes you have to read between the lines. And you're an expert on this because I'm a nanny. It's literally my job to read between the lines. She tucked her legs under her. The kid I take care of, Owen, he's 6. And for the first 3 months I worked with his family, he never said a word to me, just nodded or shook his head when I asked him questions. His parents thought he was shy. But he wasn't? He was scared. His last nanny yelled at him a lot, made him feel like he was always doing something wrong. So he just shut down. Mia's voice softened. It took forever to get him to trust me. But once he did, he wouldn't stop talking. Turns out he had a lot to say. He just needed someone who'd actually listen. Ethan was watching her now with an expression she couldn't quite read. You care about him. Of course I do. That's the job. No. He shook his head. The job is keeping him fed and safe and making sure he does his homework. Caring is something else. Well, maybe it shouldn't be. Mia met his gaze. Maybe caring should be part of the job. Something shifted in his expression. A crack in the armor. Brief, but real. Then it was gone, smoothed over by that same cool professionalism he'd worn since she woke up. Tell me about your mother, he said, changing the subject. The one in Chicago you were supposed to visit. Mia blinked at the pivot. Why? Because we have 4 more hours on this plane, and I'm tired of working. Humor me. She studied him for a moment, trying to figure out if this was some kind of test, but he just looked curious, like he actually wanted to know. She's a teacher, Mia said finally. 3rd grade, she's been doing it for almost 30 years. That's a long time. Yeah, she loves it, though. Says she can't imagine doing anything else. Mia smiled, thinking about the last time they'd talked on the phone. Her mom had spent 20 minutes describing a lesson plan about the solar system, so excited she could barely get the words out. She's one of those people who really believes she can change the world, one kid at a time. Did she change yours? The question caught Mia off guard. What? Your world. Did she change it? Mia had to think about that. Yeah, I guess she did. She's the reason I became a nanny. Watching her with her students, seeing how much she cared about them, I wanted to do that too. Make that kind of difference. And do you? Make a difference? I don't know. I hope so. She glanced down at her hands. Most days it doesn't feel like much. I'm just keeping one kid safe, helping with homework and making snacks and breaking up fights over Legos. It's not exactly saving the world. Maybe not, but it's saving someone's world. Ethan's voice was quieter now. That counts for something. Mia looked up, surprised by the shift in his tone. For a moment, the cold, calculating businessman was gone, replaced by someone who looked almost tired, human. Do you miss it? She asked. When Noah was little, being there for all the small stuff? Ethan's jaw tightened. I am there. Are you? I provide for him. I make sure he has everything he needs. That's not what I asked. The temperature in the cabin seemed to drop 10 degrees. When Ethan spoke again, his voice had that edge back, sharp and defensive. You don't know anything about my life. You're right, I don't. Mia held his gaze. But I know what it's like to grow up with a parent who's always working, always busy, always just out of reach. Your mother, not my mother, my father. The words came out harder than she'd intended. He was never around, always had something more important to do. And whenever I tried to tell him I missed him, he'd say the same thing you just did. I provide for you. I make sure you have everything you need. That's not the same, isn't it? Ethan stood abruptly, moving to the window. His reflection stared back at him, superimposed over the darkening sky. Noah is fine, he said. He's happy. He has structure, stability, opportunities most kids would kill for. But does he have you? The silence that followed was deafening. Mia immediately regretted pushing. This wasn't her business. She barely knew this man. Who was she to lecture him about parenting? I'm sorry, she said quietly. That was out of line. Ethan didn't turn around. You're tired. You're stressed. You're saying things you don't mean. No, I meant it. I just shouldn't have said it. She stood, intending to retreat back to the bedroom, to give him space. But then he spoke again. He asked me to stay home last week. His voice was so low she almost didn't hear it. We were supposed to go to the park. I told him I would after this one call. It ended up being 3 calls. By the time I finished, he'd fallen asleep on the couch, waiting. Mia's chest tightened. I carried him to bed, Ethan continued, and when I put him down, he woke up just enough to ask if we could go tomorrow instead. I said yes, but tomorrow turned into the next day and the next, and he finally turned around. You're right. I'm not there. Not really. But you want to be. Wanting doesn't fix anything. No, but it's a start. Mia moved closer, careful not to crowd him. Look, I know I don't have any right to tell you how to parent your kid, and I'm sure you have your reasons for the choices you make. But from where I'm standing, as someone who's been the kid waiting for a parent to come home, the time matters more than the money. The attention matters more than the opportunities. Ethan's expression was unreadable. You're very opinionated for someone who accidentally stowed away on my plane. Yeah, well, Mia shrugged. Apparently I have boundary issues when I'm sleep deprived. This time he did smile. Small, but real. Noted. The tension in the cabin eased slightly. Marcus's voice crackled over the intercom. Mr. Blake, we'll be beginning our descent in approximately 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Less than an hour before they landed in a country Mia had never been to, without any of the things she needed to actually be there legally. The panic must have shown on her face because Ethan's expression shifted to something almost like concern. We'll figure it out, he said. How? I have people, lawyers, fixers, whatever you want to call them. They handle problems like this. Problems like accidental stowaways? Problems like getting someone into a country without proper documentation. He pulled out his phone, already typing. It'll cost me a favor or two, but it's manageable. And then what? You just send me back to New York? Ethan paused, thumb hovering over the screen. Is that what you want? Mia opened her mouth to say yes. Of course that's what she wanted. She had a job, a life, a mother who was probably worried sick by now. But the word stuck in her throat because part of her, a small, irrational part that she refused to acknowledge, was curious. About Paris. About this strange, complicated man. About what would happen if she said no. I don't know, she admitted. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Then he went back to his phone. We'll figure it out after we land. For now, just sit tight. That's it? Sit tight? Unless you have a better plan. She didn't. So she sat. Paris at night was a postcard come to life. Mia pressed her face to the window as they descended, watching the lights of the city spread out below like scattered diamonds. The Eiffel Tower glowed gold in the distance, impossibly tall, impossibly beautiful. First time? Ethan asked from across the aisle. In Paris? Yeah. She didn't take her eyes off the window. First time out of the country, actually. How is that possible? It's called being broke. But she said it without bitterness. Just fact. The plane touched down so smoothly, Mia barely felt it. Within minutes, they were taxiing toward a private terminal, far from the chaos of the main airport. A black Mercedes waited on the tarmac. Ethan gathered his things with practiced efficiency, while Mia stood there, still clutching her ratty canvas bag, feeling completely out of place. Come on, he said, heading for the door. Where are we going? Hotel. Then we'll figure out the rest. The driver, a silent, efficient man in a dark suit, loaded Ethan's luggage while Mia climbed into the back seat, trying not to gawk at the leather interior. Paris blurred past the windows. Narrow streets and old buildings and cafes with glowing signs. Even at night, the city felt alive. Ethan made 3 phone calls in rapid-fire French, his voice sharp and commanding. Mia didn't understand a word, but she understood the tone. This was a man used to being obeyed. When he finally hung up, he looked at her. "You're staying at the hotel with me tonight. Tomorrow, we'll get you temporary documentation and a flight back to New York." Just like that? Just like that. It sounded too easy, too clean, but Mia was too tired to argue. The hotel was everything she'd expected and more. Old-world elegance mixed with modern luxury. Marble floors and crystal chandeliers and staff who moved with quiet efficiency. Ethan spoke to the concierge in French while Mia stood off to the side, hyper-aware of her wrinkled clothes and messy hair. "You'll be in the suite next to mine," Ethan said, handing her a key card. "If you need anything, dial 0. They'll take care of it." "Ethan." She caught his arm before he could walk away. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Being nice. Helping me. You could have just had me arrested." He looked down at her hand on his arm, then back up at her face. "Maybe I'm curious." "About what?" "About whether you're real." "Real?" "Most people want something from me. Money, connections, a piece of whatever success they think I have." His eyes searched hers. "But you just want to go home. That's rare. That doesn't make me special. That makes me normal." "Exactly." He gently removed her hand from his arm, but his touch lingered for half a second longer than necessary. "Get some sleep, Mia. Tomorrow's going to be complicated." Then he was gone, disappearing down the hall with the kind of confidence that came from owning every room he walked into. Mia stood there, keycard in hand, trying to process the last 12 hours. She'd boarded the wrong plane, ended up in Paris, with a billionaire single father who looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. And despite everything, despite the absurdity and the panic and the sheer impossibility of it all, part of her wasn't ready for it to end. Not yet. She swiped the keycard and stepped into the suite. It was bigger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A king-size bed dominated one wall. There was a sitting area, a marble bathroom with a tub big enough for 3 people, and a mini-bar stocked with things she couldn't pronounce. Mia dropped her bag on the floor and walked to the window. Paris stretched out before her, glittering and impossible. She pressed her palm against the glass, feeling the cool surface beneath her skin. Tomorrow, she'd go home. Back to her cramped apartment and her nanny job in her real life. But tonight, just for tonight, she was here. In a city she'd never thought she'd see. With a man who made her feel seen in a way she'd never experienced. And even though she knew it couldn't last, even though she knew this was just a bizarre accident that would become a story she'd tell at parties years from now, for tonight, she let herself believe in the impossible. Just a little bit, just enough. Mia woke to sunlight streaming through windows she didn't recognize. For a disorienting moment, she thought she was still dreaming. Then the events of yesterday crashed back. The wrong plane, the Atlantic, Ethan Blake's cold gray eyes asking her to explain the unexplainable. She sat up, heart racing, and looked around the suite. Still here. Still Paris. Still impossible. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. 12 missed calls from her mom. 15 texts. The most recent one made her stomach drop. "Mia Grace Lawson, if you don't call me in the next hour, I'm filing a missing person report." "Shit." Mia dialed immediately. Her mom picked up on the first ring. "Where the hell are you?" "Paris." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, what?" "I know how it sounds. You were supposed to be in Chicago, at my house, 12 hours ago." Her mom's voice climbed an octave. "And now you're telling me you're in France?" "It's a long story." "Then you better start talking." Mia spent the next 20 minutes explaining, though even to her own ears it sounded insane. Wrong gate, private jet, Ethan Blake, the whole ridiculous chain of events that had landed her in a hotel suite overlooking Paris. When she finished, her mom was quiet for so long Mia thought the call had dropped. "Mom? I'm trying to decide if you're having a breakdown or if this is actually real." "It's real. I swear it's real." "And this Blake guy, he's not dangerous?" "You're safe." "Yeah. He's intense, but he's not dangerous. He's been surprisingly decent about the whole thing, actually." Another pause. "Mia, honey, I need you to be smart about this." "I am being smart. Are you?" Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're alone in a foreign country with a man you don't know, and the only reason you're there is because of a mistake. I know, but he's helping me get home. He has lawyers working on it right now. Lawyers, her mom sighed. Just promise me you'll be careful and that you'll call me every few hours so I know you're okay. I promise. I love you, even when you give me heart attacks. Love you too, Mom. Mia hung up and immediately felt the weight of the situation settle back onto her shoulders. She needed to get home, back to her real life, before this whole thing spiraled further out of control. A knock at the door made her jump. She opened it to find a woman in a hotel uniform holding a garment bag and a white box. Mademoiselle Lawson, Monsieur Blake asked me to bring these to you. Mia took them, confused. I didn't order anything. Compliments of Monsieur Blake. He thought you might need fresh clothes. The woman smiled and disappeared down the hall before Mia could respond. Inside the garment bag was a simple but elegant outfit, dark jeans that actually looked like they'd fit, a soft cream sweater, and a black jacket. The box contained a pair of leather ankle boots. Everything looked expensive, really expensive. A note was tucked into the box in sharp, precise handwriting. Can't have you meeting with lawyers in yesterday's clothes. Mia stared at the note, torn between gratitude and irritation. She didn't need his charity, but she also didn't have anything else to wear, and the idea of spending another day in her wrinkled jeans made her want to crawl back into bed. She showered, changed, and had to admit the clothes fit perfectly. Someone had a good eye. Her phone buzzed again. A text this time, from a number she didn't recognize. Breakfast. Downstairs. 20 minutes. No signature, but she knew who it was from. The hotel restaurant was all glass and white tablecloths, filled with well-dressed people speaking in hushed French. Mia felt out of place immediately, even in the new clothes. Ethan sat at a corner table, already working on his laptop, a half-empty coffee cup beside him. He looked up when she approached, his eyes doing a quick scan that made her self-conscious. They fit, he said. You didn't have to do that. I know. Sit down. She sat. A waiter appeared instantly with coffee and a menu she couldn't read. Do you speak French? Ethan asked. Not a word. Then trust me to order for you. He rattled off something in flawless French. The waiter nodded and vanished. Show off, Mia muttered. It's practical, not showing off. I'm here 3 times a year minimum. For $40 million meetings? Among other things, he closed the laptop and gave her his full attention. My lawyers are working on getting you temporary documentation. It'll take most of the day, but they're optimistic. And then what? You just put me on a plane back to New York? That's the plan. Okay. She wrapped her hands around the coffee cup, grateful for the warmth. Thank you. For this. For not throwing me off the plane mid-flight. I considered it. She almost laughed. I bet you did. The food arrived. Flaky pastries, fresh fruit, eggs that looked nothing like the scrambled ones she made in her tiny kitchen. Everything tasted better than it had any right to. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression tightened. Problem? Mia asked. The meeting I'm supposed to be at in 3 hours just got complicated. The big one? The only one that matters right now. He set down his fork, tension radiating off him. The company I'm acquiring has 2 board members who are difficult. They don't trust me. They think I'm going to gut their company for parts. Are you? He shot her a look. No, but perception matters more than reality in these situations. So what are you going to do? Convince them I'm not the monster they think I am. He said it like it was simple. Like rewriting someone's entire perception of you was just another item on a to-do list. How? By being someone they can relate to, someone human. His mouth twisted, which, as you've probably noticed, isn't exactly my strong suit. Mia studied him. The sharp suit, the sharper expression, the way he held himself like he was always ready for a fight. He was right. Warmth wasn't his default setting. You know what might help? She said. What? Bringing someone with you who isn't terrifying. Ethan blinked. Excuse me? I'm just saying, you walk into that room alone, all intensity and business, and they're going to see exactly what they expect. But if you show up with someone normal, someone who doesn't look like they're about to destroy their lives, it might change the dynamic. And you think you're that someone? Why not? I'm about as non-threatening as they come. She gestured to herself. Plus, I'm good with people. It's literally my job. Your job is taking care of children. Same skill set. Listen, empathize, de-escalate tension. The only difference is adults are usually better at using their words. Ethan leaned back in his chair, considering. This is insane. No more insane than me accidentally boarding your plane. That's a low bar. And yet, here we are. Mia met his gaze. Look, I get it if you don't want me there, but you helped me when you didn't have to. Let me help you back, even if it's just making you seem slightly less intimidating for a few hours. He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the table. She could practically see him running calculations, weighing risks and benefits. There's a catch, he said finally. Of course there is. The board members I'm meeting with, they're family men. Both of them have young kids. They want to know the person acquiring their company isn't just some corporate shark. They want to know I understand what matters. And you need me to make you look more family-friendly? Something like that. He hesitated. They know I have a son. They'll probably ask about him, about how I balance work and being a father. Do you balance it? No, but they don't need to know that. His jaw tightened. I need them to see me as someone who gets it, who values the same things they do. Mia set down her coffee cup. You want me to lie for you? I want you to help me present a version of myself that makes them comfortable enough to sign the deal. What you call that is up to you. She should say no. This was already too messy, too complicated. Getting more involved with Ethan Blake's business dealings was the opposite of getting home safely. But something in his expression stopped her. Beneath the confidence and control, there was something raw, desperate almost. Like this meeting mattered in a way that had nothing to do with money. Why is this deal so important to you? She asked quietly. Ethan's expression shuddered. That's not relevant. I think it is, because you're asking me to help you, and I need to know why. For a moment, she thought he'd shut her down completely, tell her to mind her own business, and send her back to her room. Instead, he sighed. The company I'm acquiring, Bellamy Technologies, they make medical devices, specifically equipment for pediatric hospitals, advanced monitoring systems, surgical tools, things that save kids' lives. Mia's chest tightened. And you want to buy them because their current owner is running them into the ground, cutting corners on R&D to maximize short-term profits. In 5 years, they'll be worthless. And all those hospitals that depend on their equipment will be scrambling for alternatives that don't exist yet. So you're trying to save them. I'm trying to acquire them before someone else does and strips them for parts. There's a difference. Is there? Mia leaned forward. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you actually care about what happens to these kids you'll never meet. Caring doesn't factor into business decisions. Bullshit. The word came out harder than she intended. You could acquire any company you want, but you chose this one. Why? Ethan's fingers stilled on the table. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because 5 years ago, Noah got sick, really sick, meningitis. They rushed him to the ER, and the only reason they caught it in time was because they had the right monitoring equipment made by Bellamy. Oh. Ethan, I'm not doing this out of sentiment, he cut her off. I'm doing it because it makes business sense and because I have the resources to do it right. That's all. But it wasn't all. Mia could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way his hands had curled into fists. This wasn't just business. This was personal. Okay, she said. He looked up, surprised. Okay? I'll help you. With the meeting, but on one condition. Which is? You stop pretending you don't care about things. At least with me. I'm going to spend the day lying to strangers for you. The least you can do is be honest with me. Something flickered across his face. Not quite a smile, but close. Deal, he said. 2 hours later, Mia found herself in the back of the Mercedes again, heading toward a building in the business district that looked more like a museum than an office. Ethan had spent the car ride briefing her on the 2 board members, Jean-Claude Moreau and Philippe Durant. Both in their 50s, both protective of the company they'd helped build, both skeptical of American billionaires swooping in with promises. Just follow my lead, Ethan said as they pulled up to the entrance. Be yourself. Be warm. If they ask you direct questions, answer honestly but keep it brief. And if they ask about Noah, tell them he's 5, that he likes dinosaurs and building blocks, that he's the most important thing in my life. Is he? Ethan's jaw tightened. He should be. The honesty in that answer made Mia's heart hurt. The building's interior was all marble and glass, intimidatingly elegant. They rode the elevator to the top floor in silence, Ethan's focus already shifting to business mode. She could see the transformation happening in real time. The softening she'd glimpsed over breakfast disappearing behind walls of cool professionalism. The conference room was massive, dominated by a table that could seat 20. Only 2 men sat at it, both rising as Ethan and Mia entered. Ethan, good to see you. Jean-Claude Moreau was tall and silver-haired, his handshake firm but his eyes wary. Philippe Durant was shorter, rounder, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. We were beginning to think you might not make it. Flight delays, Ethan said smoothly. My apologies, this is Mia Lawson. She's helping me with some personal matters while I'm in Paris. Both men looked at her with open curiosity. Mademoiselle Lawson. Jean-Claude took her hand. A pleasure. The pleasure's mine, Mia said, hoping her smile looked natural. Though I have to admit I'm a little out of my depth here. I'm a nanny, not a businesswoman. A nanny? Philippe's eyes lit up. How wonderful. I have 3 grandchildren myself, exhausting little terrors, but I wouldn't trade them for anything. I know exactly what you mean. Mia laughed. The 6-year-old I take care of once convinced me that his parents said he could have ice cream for breakfast. Took me 3 days to figure out he'd made the whole thing up. Philippe chuckled. Clever. Mine tried to tell me vegetables were poisonous. The ice broke just slightly. Jean-Claude still looked reserved, but some of the tension had eased from his posture. They settled into their seats. Ethan launched into his presentation, financial projections, restructuring plans, promises of investment in R&D. He was confident, articulate, completely in control. But Mia watched the 2 Frenchmen. Watched the way Jean-Claude's shoulders stayed tight, the way Philippe kept glancing at his phone like he wanted to be anywhere else. They weren't buying it. Not really. Halfway through the presentation, Jean-Claude held up a hand. Forgive me, Ethan, but I must ask, what is your real interest in Bellamy? You have dozens of companies. Why this one? The room went still. Ethan's expression didn't change, but Mia saw his fingers tighten on the tablet he'd been using. I believe there's significant untapped potential. That's what you said in your proposal, Jean-Claude interrupted. I'm asking what you're not saying. Why does Ethan Blake, who could buy any company in the world, want a struggling medical device manufacturer? The silence stretched. Mia made a decision. Can I say something? She didn't wait for permission. I know I'm not supposed to be part of this meeting. I'm just the nanny who accidentally ended up in Paris. But since I'm here anyway, all 3 men turned to look at her. 5 years ago, Ethan's son almost died, she said quietly. Meningitis. They caught it just in time because the hospital had the right equipment. Equipment your company made. Philippe's expression shifted. Jean-Claude leaned forward. Ethan doesn't talk about it, Mia continued. He probably wouldn't want me telling you this, but you asked why he cares, and that's why. Because he knows what it's like to stand in a hospital room and pray that the technology exists to save your kid's life. And he knows that if your company fails, there will be other parents in other hospitals who won't be as lucky as he was. She glanced at Ethan. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. He's not trying to save the world, she said. He's trying to save the one piece of it that saved his son. Maybe that's not great business logic, but it's the truth. The silence that followed felt different, heavier. Philippe was the first to speak. My youngest grandson had heart surgery last year. He was 3 years old. The surgeon used one of our monitoring systems. It gave them real-time data that... His voice cracked slightly. That made all the difference. Jean-Claude's expression had softened. My daughter works in a children's hospital in Lyon. She tells me constantly that our equipment is the best she's ever used, that it saves lives other systems would miss. He looked at Ethan. Is this true? About your son? Ethan met his gaze steadily. Yes. Why didn't you tell us this before? Because I didn't want you to think I was using it to manipulate you. And yet Jean-Claude glanced at Mia. Your companion just did exactly that. She wasn't supposed to. Ethan's voice was tight. But apparently she has boundary issues. Mia bit her lip, wondering if she'd just destroyed the entire deal. Then Felipe laughed, a real, genuine laugh that filled the room. I like her. She speaks truth when everyone else speaks strategy. That's rare. Jean-Claude was smiling too, just slightly. Perhaps we've been approaching this wrong. Ethan, tell me, not as a businessman but as a father, what would you do with Bellamy if we agreed to this acquisition? What followed was a different conversation entirely. Ethan talked about his vision for the company, but this time the corporate speak was stripped away. He talked about funding research into better pediatric monitoring systems, about hiring the best engineers and giving them the resources to innovate without quarterly profit pressures, about making sure every children's hospital in the world could afford their equipment. And for the first time since Mia met him, he sounded like he actually believed in something beyond the bottom line. Jean-Claude and Philippe listened, asked questions, pushed back on certain points but nodded at others. 2 hours later, when they stood to shake hands, there was a tentative agreement in place. Not final, there were still lawyers and contracts and 100 details to work out, but real. We'll have our team draft the preliminary terms, Jean-Claude said. Should be ready for review by end of week. I look forward to it. Ethan shook both their hands. Felipe turned to Mia. It was lovely to meet you, Mademoiselle Lawson. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time in Paris. Thank you. I hope I do too. The moment they were back in the elevator, Mia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. That was completely out of line, Ethan said, but there was no heat in it. I told you to follow my lead, not take over the meeting. I know. I'm sorry. They weren't connecting with you, and I thought if they knew the real reason, it worked. He looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. I spent 3 months trying to get them to trust me. You did it in 5 minutes. I cheated. I used your son. You told them the truth. There's a difference. The elevator doors opened onto the lobby. Come on. I owe you lunch. They ended up at a small cafe tucked down a side street, the kind of place that definitely wasn't in any tourist guides. The tables were mismatched, the menu handwritten on a chalkboard, and the owner greeted Ethan like an old friend. You come here a lot? Mia asked as they sat down. When I'm in Paris, yes, the food's good and no one bothers me. They ordered, Ethan handling the French again, and then sat in comfortable silence while they waited. Can I ask you something? Mia said finally. You're going to anyway. Fair. What you said in there about what you do with Bellamy, did you mean it? Or was that just more strategy? Ethan was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns on the worn wooden table. When Noah was in the hospital, I felt completely helpless. I had all this money, all this power, and none of it mattered. I couldn't fix him. I couldn't make him better. I just had to wait and hope the doctors and the equipment were good enough. That must have been terrifying. It was the worst 3 days of my life. His voice was rough. And when he finally stabilized, when they told me he was going to be okay, I made a promise to myself that I'd never feel that helpless again. That if I could do something, anything, to make sure other parents didn't have to go through what I went through, I would. So yes, you meant it. Yes. He looked up, meeting her eyes. I meant it. The food arrived, and they ate while talking about lighter things. Mia told him about the kids she'd worked with over the years, the funny moments and the heartbreaking ones. Ethan talked about Noah's obsession with dinosaurs, how he'd memorized the names of at least 40 species and would correct anyone who got them wrong. He sounds amazing, Mia said. He is. Ethan's expression softened in a way she hadn't seen before. He's everything I'm not. Open, trusting, happy. You could be those things too. I don't think that's how I'm built. Maybe you just need practice. He smiled, a real smile this time, not the polite business version. Is that your professional nanny opinion? It's my professional human being opinion. They finished lunch and stepped back into the Paris afternoon. The sun was warm, the streets busy with people who looked like they had nowhere important to be. What time does your flight leave tomorrow? Ethan asked as they walked. Tomorrow. Right. Reality. I don't know yet. Your lawyers are booking it, remember? Right. He checked his phone. They just sent confirmation. You're on the 10 a.m. to JFK, first class. You didn't have to do that. I know. Consider it payment for services rendered. They walked in silence for a while, weaving through narrow streets lined with shops and cafes. Mia tried to memorize everything. The way the light hit the old buildings, the sound of French conversations floating past, the smell of fresh bread from a nearby boulangerie. You should see the city, Ethan said suddenly. Properly, I mean. Not just the hotel and a conference room. I don't have time. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. You have the rest of today. He stopped walking, turning to face her. And I have a driver who knows Paris better than anyone. Unless you'd rather spend your last night here alone in a hotel room? Mia's heart did something complicated in her chest. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Being nice to me. You got what you wanted from the meeting. You don't owe me anything else. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Maybe I'm not ready for you to leave yet. The words hung between them, heavy, with implications neither of them seemed ready to examine. Okay, Mia said softly. Show me Paris. The next few hours blurred together in the best possible way. They went to the Eiffel Tower, where Mia stood underneath the iron lattice and craned her neck back until it hurt. They walked along the Seine, watching boats drift past. They stopped at a bookstore that smelled like old paper and possibility. Ethan was different away from business, looser. He pointed out buildings and told her their history, bought her a crepe from a street vendor, didn't check his phone once. As the sun started to set, they ended up at Sacré-Cœur, the white basilica perched on top of Montmartre. The steps leading up to it were packed with people, couples, families, tourists taking photos. They sat near the top, watching the city turn gold in the fading light. Thank you for today, Mia said. All of it. I know you didn't have to. Stop thanking me. I mean it, though. Yesterday I was just trying to get to Chicago to see my mom. Now I'm sitting in Paris watching the sunset with... She trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. With a stranger who threatened to have you arrested? With someone who turned out to be a lot more human than he pretends to be. Ethan's expression tightened. Don't make me into something I'm not. I'm not. I'm just seeing what's actually there. Mia pulled her knees up to her chest. You're a good dad, Ethan. Maybe not a perfect one, but you're trying. That counts for something. I'm barely there. But you want to be, and wanting matters. He was quiet for a long time, staring out at the city. When he finally spoke, his voice was so low she almost didn't hear it. What if wanting isn't enough? Then you figure out how to do better, and you keep trying until you get it right. She bumped her shoulder against his. That's what parents do. They mess up and they try again, and they hope like hell their kids forgive them for not being perfect. You sound like you know from experience. My dad wasn't around much when I was growing up. Work always came first, and for a long time I resented him for it. Mia picked at a thread on her jeans. But then I got older and I realized he was just doing the best he could with what he knew. He thought providing meant working all the time. He didn't understand that I needed him more than I needed the things his money bought. Did you ever tell him that? Yeah, when I was 22. We had this huge fight about it. She smiled sadly. He didn't really get it, but he tried. Started calling more, showing up for things when he could. It wasn't perfect, but it was better, and that mattered. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. You're very wise for someone who accidentally boards the wrong plane. And you're very human for someone who pretends not to be. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Mia couldn't quite name. The air felt different suddenly, heavier. Ethan leaned in slightly, his eyes dropping to her mouth. Mia's breath caught. Then his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He pulled back, pulling out the phone with a muttered curse. It's the lawyers. I need to take this. Of course. Mia looked away, her heart hammering against her ribs. What had almost just happened? Ethan stood, stepping away to take the call. Mia watched him pace, his voice low and businesslike, and tried to calm her racing thoughts. She was leaving tomorrow, going home, back to her real life where billionaires didn't almost kiss her on the steps of Parisian basilicas. This was just a blip, a strange, wonderful, impossible blip that would end the moment she got on that plane. It had to end, didn't it? When Ethan came back, his expression was carefully neutral. That was about tomorrow. Your documentation is ready. They'll deliver it to the hotel tonight. Great. That's great. Mia forced brightness into her voice. So I'm all set then. All set. Neither of them moved. We should head back, Ethan said finally. It's getting late. The drive to the hotel was quiet. Not uncomfortable exactly, but weighted, like they were both thinking things they weren't saying. When they pulled up to the entrance, Ethan turned to her. Thank you. For today. For the meeting. For everything. You already thanked me. I meant it, though. Mia smiled. Stop thanking me. He almost laughed. They stood in the lobby, neither quite ready to say goodbye, even though they both knew they had to. Good night, Mia, Ethan said finally. Good night. She made it 3 steps toward the elevator before turning back. Ethan? He stopped, looking back at her. Call your son before you go to bed. Tell him about your day. About the meeting. About Paris. Let him hear your voice and know you're thinking about him. Something raw crossed his face. I will. Promise? Promise. Mia nodded and turned back toward the elevator. She didn't let herself look back again. In her suite, she packed her meager belongings and tried not to think about how empty tomorrow would feel. Tried not to think about gray eyes and almost kisses and a man who was so much more than he pretended to be. Her phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. I called him. He told me about the dinosaur book his nanny read to him and asked if I'd seen any pterodactyls in Paris. Thank you for pushing me to do that. Mia's chest felt tight. Any time, she typed back. And for the record, I bet there are pterodactyls in Paris. You just have to know where to look. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. You too. She set the phone down and stared out at the city one last time. Tomorrow she'd go home. Tomorrow, this would all become just a story. Tomorrow, Ethan Blake would go back to being a stranger. But tonight, just for tonight, she let herself feel the impossible pull of something that could never be. And she let herself wonder what would happen if she stayed. Mia didn't sleep. She lay in the oversized bed watching headlights sweep across the ceiling, trying to convince herself that leaving was the right choice. The only choice. Her life was in New York. Her job, her tiny apartment, her mom waiting for her to finally make it to Chicago. This thing with Ethan, whatever it was, had an expiration date. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., to be exact. At 3 a.m., she gave up on sleep and stood at the window watching Paris glitter in the darkness. Her phone lit up on the nightstand. You awake? Her heart jumped. She grabbed the phone. Can't sleep, she typed back. Same. Meet me downstairs? She should say no. She should stay in this room and wait for morning and stick to the plan. Instead, she pulled on jeans and the sweater he'd bought her and slipped out into the hallway. The hotel lobby was empty except for a single desk clerk who nodded politely as she passed. Ethan stood near the entrance, hands in his pockets, looking like he hadn't slept either. Hey, she said softly. Hey. He studied her face. I have an idea. Probably a terrible one. What kind of terrible? The kind where instead of sitting in our rooms staring at walls, we do something stupid. Despite everything, Mia smiled. I'm listening. 20 minutes later, they were walking through Paris at 3 a.m. with no particular destination. The city was different at this hour, quieter, more intimate. Street cleaners worked in silence, cafe owners prepared for the morning rush, and occasionally they'd pass someone else who couldn't sleep, another restless soul wandering the darkness. You know what I realized? Ethan said as they crossed a bridge over the Seine. I've been coming to Paris for 10 years and I've never actually seen it. Not like this. It's always meetings and hotels and airports. That's depressing. That's my life. He stopped in the middle of the bridge, leaning against the railing. Everything scheduled down to the minute. Every interaction planned, every outcome calculated. Sounds exhausting. It is. He looked out at the water. But it's also safe. If I control everything, nothing can surprise me. Nothing can go wrong. Except sometimes wrong turns into the best thing that could happen. Mia stood beside him, their shoulders almost touching. Like accidentally boarding the wrong plane. Is that what you think this is? The best thing? I don't know what this is. She turned to face him. Do you? Ethan's jaw tightened. I know I should have sent you home yesterday, the second we landed, but I didn't want to. Why not? Because talking to you doesn't feel like work. And I can't remember the last time anything didn't feel like work. He finally looked at her, and the raw honesty in his eyes made her breath catch. You asked me yesterday if I'm happy. The answer is no. I haven't been happy in years. But these last 2 days with you, I've felt something close to it. Mia's heart was doing that complicated thing again, beating too fast and too hard. Ethan, I know. You're leaving in 7 hours. This ends. It has to end. He pushed off the railing. But we have 7 hours, so let's not waste them thinking about tomorrow. They kept walking, their path aimless but somehow purposeful. Ethan pointed out buildings he'd noticed over the years but never really looked at. Mia asked questions about everything, the history, the architecture, what it felt like to build an empire from nothing. It wasn't from nothing, Ethan said. My father was an investor, not billionaire level, but comfortable. He wanted me to take over his firm. But you didn't. No. I wanted to build something mine, something bigger. He smiled slightly. He told me I'd fail within a year, that I was too ambitious for my own good. Guess he was wrong. About the failing part, yes. About the ambition, he shrugged. Maybe not. Maybe I am too ambitious. Maybe that's why I'm alone at 3 a.m. in Paris, because I've built this massive life and forgotten to actually live it. You're not alone right now. He looked at her, something shifting in his expression. No, I'm not. They found themselves at a 24-hour cafe near Les Halles, the kind of place that served strong coffee to insomniacs and night shift workers. They ordered and sat by the window, watching the city slowly wake up. Tell me about Owen, Ethan said. The kid you nanny. What's he like? Mia wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. He's brilliant, a little anxious. He worries about everything, whether his homework is good enough, whether his friends actually like him, whether he's being good enough for his parents. 6 years old and already carrying the world. Yeah, it breaks my heart sometimes. She took a sip. But he's also funny. Last week he tried to convince me that his imaginary friend needed a snack too, so technically he should get double cookies. Did it work? Of course it worked. I'm a sucker. She smiled. His parents are good people, but they're busy, both lawyers. They work crazy hours. So Owen spends a lot of time with me, and I just try to make sure he knows he's important, that someone sees him. You're good at that. Making people feel seen. Is that what I do? It's what you did for me. Ethan's voice was quiet. At that meeting, you saw what I was actually trying to do, not just what I was saying, and you made them see it too. I just told them the truth. The truth I was too afraid to say. He leaned back in his chair. I've spent so long being the guy who doesn't let emotions affect business decisions that I forgot how to be anything else. But you walked into that room and just were yourself. Honest, direct, human. You make it sound like being human is some kind of superpower. In my world, it is. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the first hints of dawn creep across the sky. The cafe started filling up with early risers, bakers heading to work, students pulling all-nighters, people whose lives were just beginning as theirs was ending. I need to tell you something, Ethan said suddenly, and you're going to think I'm crazy. Mia's stomach flipped. Okay, don't get on the plane. She stared at him. What? Stay. In Paris. For a few more days. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. I have another meeting on Friday. A follow-up with Jean-Claude and Philippe. I want you there. Ethan, I can't just stay in Paris. I have a job, responsibilities. I know, and I know I have no right to ask this. His hand reached across the table, stopping just short of touching hers. But I'm asking anyway. Stay. Why? Because I'm not ready for this to be over. Because every time I'm around you, I remember what it feels like to want something that isn't about business or money or building the next big thing. Because he stopped, jaw working. Because you make me want to be better. And I don't want to lose that yet. Mia's throat felt tight. That's not fair. I know. You can't just ask me to rearrange my entire life because you're having some kind of crisis about yours. You're right. I'm sorry. Forget I said anything. He pulled his hand back, his expression closing off. We should get back. You need to pack. Ethan, wait. Mia grabbed his wrist before he could stand. I didn't say no. He went still. What? I said it's not fair, and it's not. But she took a shaky breath. I don't want this to be over either. And that terrifies me because I barely know you, and this is all happening so fast, and it makes absolutely no sense. So what are you saying? I'm saying, let me make a phone call. She stepped outside the cafe, her heart pounding, and dialed Owen's mother. Rebecca picked up on the third ring, her voice thick with sleep. Mia, is everything okay? What time is it? I'm so sorry to wake you. I know it's early, but I need to ask you something, and it's going to sound completely insane. Are you okay? Where are you? I'm in Paris. Long story, but I'm safe. I'm fine. And I need to know if there's any way I could take a few extra days off. I know I was supposed to be back tomorrow, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Mia, slow down. What's happening? She explained as coherently as she could. The wrong flight, Ethan. The business meeting. The impossible request to stay. She left out the parts about almost kisses and 3 a.m. walks because some things were too complicated to explain. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. This is the billionaire from the news, right? Ethan Blake? Yes. And he wants you to stay in Paris to help with more meetings. Yes. Mia, this sounds crazy. I know. But Rebecca, I need to do this. I don't know how to explain it. I just need to. Another pause. Then Rebecca sighed. Okay. Okay? Take the time. Owen's grandmother is in town this week anyway. She's been dying to spend more time with him. But Mia, be careful. Men like that, they're used to getting what they want. Make sure you know what you're getting into. I will. Thank you. Thank you so much. She hung up and stood there for a moment, processing what she'd just done. Then she walked back into the cafe where Ethan was still sitting, staring at his coffee like it held answers. I can stay until Sunday, she said. His head snapped up. You can? Yeah, but I need you to understand something. I'm not doing this because you asked. I'm doing it because I want to. For me. Okay? Okay? He stood, and the smile that crossed his face was genuine and unguarded and completely devastating. Okay. The sun was rising properly now, painting Paris in shades of pink and gold. They walked back to the hotel in the growing light, and everything felt different, charged with possibility. So what now? Mia asked as they reached the lobby. Now you get some sleep, and when you wake up, we have 2 days to figure out what the hell we're doing. Sounds like a plan. She made it to the elevator before turning back. Ethan? He stopped. Yeah? I'm glad I stayed. Me too. Mia slept until noon, a deep, dreamless sleep that left her feeling more rested than she had in weeks. When she finally woke, there was a note slipped under her door. Meeting until 3. Lunch after? E. She texted back a yes and spent the afternoon exploring the hotel, taking a long shower, trying on the other clothes that had mysteriously appeared in her closet while she slept. More jeans, more sweaters, a dress that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She should feel weird about accepting all this. But somehow, it didn't feel like charity. It felt like Ethan making sure she had what she needed to exist in his world, even temporarily. At 3:15, her phone buzzed. Change of plans. Something came up with the meeting. Can you come to the office? What kind of something? The kind where I need you. Address attached. Mia grabbed the jacket and was in a cab 15 minutes later, her stomach churning with anxiety. The office building was in the 8th arrondissement, all glass and modern architecture. She gave her name at the desk and was immediately escorted to the top floor. The conference room she entered was in chaos. Not business chaos, actual chaos. 2 children, a boy and a girl, both around 7 or 8, were running circles around the massive table while a harried-looking woman tried to catch them. Papers were scattered across the floor. Someone had spilled juice on the white carpet. And in the corner, Ethan stood with Jean-Claude and Philippe, all 3 men looking completely out of their depth. Mia, thank God! Ethan crossed to her immediately. I need your help. What happened? Jean-Claude's grandchildren. Their mother had an emergency. She was supposed to pick them up an hour ago, but her flight got delayed. And he gestured helplessly at the running children. This.
Mia bit back a laugh. You want me to wrangle them? Please, we have 2 hours of contract revisions left, and I can't think with all the screaming. Okay, but you owe me. Name your price.
She turned to survey the situation. The woman chasing the children looked like she was about to cry. The kids looked like they were having the time of their lives. Mia walked calmly to the center of the room and clapped her hands once, sharp and loud. Both children stopped mid-run, turning to stare at her. Hi, she said cheerfully. I'm Mia. What are your names? The boy spoke first, suspicious. I'm Julienne. That's my sister Claire. Nice to meet you both. Hey, I have a question. Do you guys know how to play the statue game? Claire's eyes lit up. What's that? It's a game where when the music stops, you have to freeze like a statue. But the trick is, you have to freeze in the silliest position possible. Want to try? Both kids nodded eagerly. Mia pulled out her phone, found some upbeat French music, and started playing. Okay, dance around until the music stops. Then freeze. For the next 2 hours, Mia kept Julienne and Claire entertained with games, drawing, and eventually a dramatic retelling of a dinosaur story that had both kids completely engrossed. The harried woman, who introduced herself as Marie, Jean-Claude's assistant, looked at Mia like she was a miracle worker. In the corner, Ethan and the 2 Frenchmen worked through their contracts, occasionally glancing over with expressions of relief and amazement. When Claire's mother finally arrived, apologizing profusely in rapid French, both kids hugged Mia goodbye like they'd known her forever. You're magic, Claire whispered. Will you come back? Maybe, Mia said, her heart squeezing. If your grandfather has more meetings. Jean-Claude approached as his daughter gathered the children. Mademoiselle Lawson, I cannot thank you enough. I have never seen them so calm. They're good kids, just needed something to focus on. Still, you saved this meeting. He glanced at Ethan. You are lucky to have found her. After they left, the room felt suddenly quiet. Marie began cleaning up while Ethan walked over to Mia, loosening his tie. That was incredible, he said. That was my job. Just in French business building instead of a Brooklyn apartment. No, that was more than your job. You saw what they needed, and you gave it to them. No hesitation, no frustration, just patience. He shook his head. I wouldn't have known where to start. Sure you would. You just would have tried to solve it like a business problem instead of treating them like people. See, that's exactly what I mean. You just naturally understand things I have to work to figure out. Philippe came over, grinning. Ethan, the papers are ready for signature, but first I must say, you're Mia. She is formidable. My wife would love her. She's not my... Ethan started, then stopped. Thank you, Philippe. After the contracts were signed and the office finally emptied, Ethan and Mia stood alone in the conference room. The sun was setting outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the floor. So, Mia said, that was your emergency? I panicked. I've negotiated billion-dollar deals, but 2 children completely derailed me. He smiled ruefully. Not my finest moment. I don't know. I think it's kind of nice, like seeing you actually struggle with something. Glad my incompetence is entertaining. That's not what I mean. She moved closer. I mean, it's nice seeing you be human, not perfect, not in control of everything. Ethan's expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through. I'm never in control when you're around. Is that a bad thing? I don't know yet. They stood there, the space between them charged with everything they weren't saying. The office was empty now, just the 2 of them and the dying light and a tension that had been building since that almost kiss on the basilica steps. Mia, Ethan said quietly, we should talk about what's happening here. What is happening here? I don't know, but I can't stop thinking about you. And I know that's not fair because you have a life in New York, and I have responsibilities, and this whole thing is complicated and messy and probably a terrible idea, Ethan. But I need you to know that whatever this is, it's not just about the meeting or needing help with my business. It's Ethan. Mia put her hand on his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath her palm. Stop talking. He went quiet, his eyes searching hers. I know this is complicated, she said. I know it doesn't make sense. I know I should be on a plane back to New York right now, but I'm not. I'm here, with you, and I think we both know why. Why? Because this,
Whatever it is, it matters. It's real. And neither of us wants to walk away from it yet. Ethan's hand came up to cover hers, pressing it more firmly against his chest. And what happens when you do have to walk away? I don't know. But we still have 3 days to figure it out.
3 days isn't enough.
Then let's make them count. Something broke in Ethan's expression, the last wall crumbling. He pulled her closer, his other hand sliding into her hair, tilting her face up to his. Tell me if this is a mistake, he whispered, his mouth inches from hers. It probably is. Tell me to stop. I can't. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate and honest and full of everything they'd been holding back. Mia's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and he responded by lifting her slightly, backing her against the window. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. That was... He didn't finish. Yeah, Mia agreed shakily. It was. We should probably get out of here before someone finds us making out in a conference room like teenagers. She laughed, the sound breaking some of the intensity. Probably, but neither of them moved. Tomorrow, Ethan said, his thumb tracing her jawline. I'm clearing my schedule. No meetings, no calls, just you and me and Paris. You can't just clear your schedule. You have $1 billion company to run. I have people who can handle things for 1 day, and I'm choosing to spend it with you. His eyes were serious. If that's okay. That's more than okay. They left the office together, hands linked, and stepped out into the Paris evening. The city glowed around them, alive with possibility. Where do you want to go? Ethan asked. Anywhere. Everywhere. I want to see all of it. That's a tall order for 3 days. Then we better get started. They spent the evening wandering through the Marais, stopping at tiny bistros and wine bars. Ethan was different here, away from business and responsibility. He laughed more easily, touched her more often, a hand on her back, fingers intertwined with hers, casual intimacy that felt earned. They talked about everything and nothing, their childhoods, their failures, the moments that had shaped them into who they were. Ethan told her about building his first company at 23 and watching it fail within a year, about his father's disappointment and his determination to prove him wrong. Mia told him about the year after college when she'd tried to be a teacher like her mom and realized she wasn't built for classrooms, about feeling like a failure until she took her first nanny job and discovered she was good at the one-on-one connection, the intimacy of helping raise someone else's child. Do you ever want kids of your own? Ethan asked as they sat on a bench near Place des Vosges. Eventually. Maybe. I don't know. Mia leaned into his shoulder. Do you want more? I barely have time for the one I have, but yeah, someday. If I ever figure out how to actually be present instead of just providing. You will. You're already doing it. Calling Noah, thinking about him. That's the first step. Because you pushed me to. No, because you wanted to. I just gave you permission to admit it. They stayed out until midnight, talking and kissing and existing in a bubble where reality couldn't quite reach them. When they finally made it back to the hotel, they stood in the hallway between their rooms, neither wanting to say goodnight. Tomorrow, Ethan said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I'm going to show you Paris the way it should be seen. I'm holding you to that. Good. He kissed her softly, a promise. Sleep well, Mia. You too. She watched him disappear into his room before retreating to her own. The suite felt too big, too empty without him. She stood at the window, looking out at the city, and let herself feel the full weight of what was happening. She was falling for him, fast and hard and completely irrationally. And in 3 days, she'd have to figure out what to do about it. But not tonight. Tonight, she let herself fall. Morning came too bright and too early, but Mia woke with an unfamiliar lightness in her chest. For a moment, she lay there, letting herself feel it. This strange, terrifying joy that came from choosing something just because she wanted it, not because it made sense. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Breakfast downstairs in 30? We have a city to conquer. She smiled, typing back. Make it 20. I'm hungry. She dressed quickly in jeans and the cream sweater, ran a brush through her hair without overthinking it, and headed down. Ethan was already at their usual table, but he looked different this morning. Relaxed.
The constant tension he usually carried in his shoulders had eased. He stood when she approached, and the smile he gave her was warm and unguarded. "You look happy," she said, sitting across from him. "I am happy. That's your fault." "I'll take the credit." They ordered breakfast. Croissants and fruit and coffee that tasted better than anything Mia had ever made in her tiny Brooklyn kitchen. Outside the windows, Paris hummed with morning energy. "So what's the plan?" Mia asked, tearing off a piece of croissant. "You promised me Paris." "I did, and I always keep my promises." Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. "Question though, do you want the tourist version or the real version?" "What's the difference?" "Tourist version, Louvre, Arc de Triomphe, all the famous spots. Real version, places locals actually go, markets, hidden gardens, the Paris you don't see in guidebooks." Mia didn't hesitate. "Real version, definitely." "Good answer." They spent the morning wandering through neighborhoods Mia had never heard of. Ethan took her to a flower market in the Ile de la Cité, where vendors sold roses and peonies and flowers she couldn't name. They walked through the covered passages of the 9th arrondissement, beautiful glass-roofed arcades filled with bookshops and strange little boutiques. "How do you know about all this?" Mia asked as they emerged from a passage onto a quiet street. "I told you, I've been coming here for years. Most of the time I'm stuck in meetings, but sometimes I'd slip away for an hour. Walk until I found something interesting." He squeezed her hand. "It's better with company, though." They stopped for lunch at a tiny restaurant that barely fit 10 tables. The owner recognized Ethan and greeted him in rapid French, gesturing animatedly. Ethan responded in kind, laughing at something the man said. "What did he say?" Mia asked after they sat down. "He said he's glad I finally brought a woman here who smiles. Apparently I look too serious all the time." "He's not wrong." "I know." Ethan leaned back, studying her. "You're good for me. You know that?" "You keep saying that." "Because it keeps being true." His expression turned serious. "Mia, I need to tell you something, and I need you to actually hear me, okay?" Her stomach flipped. "Okay. This isn't just about having company for a few days. It's not about being lonely or having someone to show around Paris." He reached across the table, taking both her hands. "I know we barely know each other. I know this is fast, but I haven't felt this way about anyone I don't know if I've ever felt this way. And I need you to know that before we run out of time." Mia's throat went tight. "Ethan, you don't have to say anything back. I just needed you to know." But she did have something to say. She just wasn't sure she was brave enough to say it. The food arrived, saving her from having to respond immediately. They ate in charged silence, the air between them heavy with things neither quite knew how to navigate. After lunch, they walked to the Luxembourg Gardens, a sprawling park filled with perfectly manicured lawns and tree-lined paths. Children sailed toy boats in the fountain. Couples sprawled on the grass. Old men played chess under the shade of trees. They found an empty bench near the fountain and sat, watching the world move around them. "Can I ask you something?" Mia said finally. "Always. What happens after Sunday? When I go back to New York and you go back to being Ethan Blake, billionaire CEO, who doesn't have time for happiness?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know." "That's not an answer." "It's the only honest one I have." He turned to face her. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know either. This whole thing is crazy. A week ago, I didn't know you existed. Now I'm sitting in Paris trying to figure out how to fit you into my life. And it doesn't make any sense because our lives don't fit together. You live in penthouses and fly private jets. I live in a 400-square-foot apartment and take the subway. You have board meetings and billion-dollar deals. I have nap time and juice boxes. So you're saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's complicated." "Complicated isn't the same as impossible." Ethan shifted closer. "Mia, I know this is fast. I know it's messy, but I also know I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're kind and honest, and you don't let me get away with my own bullshit. I know you make me want to be better. I know that when I'm with you, I feel like maybe I'm not completely broken." His voice cracked slightly. "That's enough for me to want to try." Mia felt tears prick her eyes. "You're not broken." "Yes, I am. I've been broken for years. I just got really good at hiding it." He touched her face gently. "But with you, I don't feel like I have to hide." "Ethan." She didn't know what to say, didn't know how to reconcile the impossibility of this with how right it felt. You don't have to decide anything right now, he said softly. We still have 2 more days. Let's just be here, together, and figure out the rest when we have to. She nodded, not trusting her voice. They stayed in the park until the sun started to sink, talking about lighter things. Ethan told her about Noah's latest obsession with space, how he'd started asking questions about black holes that Ethan couldn't answer. Mia told him about Owen's fear of thunderstorms and how they'd created an elaborate game where Owen was a superhero who could control the weather. You really love him, Ethan said. Owen? Of course I do. That's the job. No, it's not. The job is keeping him safe and fed. Love is extra. He paused. Does it hurt? Loving someone else's kid, knowing you'll eventually have to leave? Mia thought about that. Sometimes. But the love is worth the hurt. And I think Owen knows he's loved, even if I'm not his mom. That matters. Noah's nanny, Mrs. Chen, she's been with us for 2 years, and I don't think she's ever told him she loves him. Does she? I don't know. Maybe. She's professional about everything. Kids don't need professional. They need real. Mia squeezed his hand. You should tell her she can love him, that it's okay, that it's actually what he needs. And if she leaves someday, if Noah gets attached and then she's gone, then he learns that love doesn't end just because someone leaves, that people can love you and still move on. That's not a bad lesson. She met his eyes. Protecting kids from loss means protecting them from connection, and connection is what makes life worth living. Ethan looked at her like she'd said something profound. How are you so wise? I'm not wise. I just pay attention. They left the park as evening settled over the city, the streetlights beginning to glow. Ethan's phone had been buzzing periodically all day, but he'd ignored it completely. Now he glanced at it and frowned. What's wrong? Mia asked. My assistant, she's been trying to reach me. Something came up with the Bellamy deal. Is it bad? I don't know yet. Let me make a call. He stepped away, phone to his ear, and Mia watched his expression shift from relaxed to tense. Whatever the news was, it wasn't good. When he came back, his jaw was tight. There's a problem with the contract. One of Bellamy's investors is threatening to block the whole deal unless we renegotiate terms. Jean-Claude wants to meet tonight to discuss damage control. Tonight? In 2 hours. He looked genuinely upset. I'm sorry. I know I said today was just us, but it's okay. This is important. So are you. I know. But this deal matters. Not just to you, to all those hospitals that need the equipment. She touched his arm. Go. Do what you need to do. I'll be fine. Come with me. To a business meeting? Ethan, that's not... I don't care if it's appropriate. I want you there. His eyes were intense. Please, I work better when you're around. Mia wanted to argue, but the look on his face stopped her. This wasn't about needing her professionally. It was about needing her. Okay, she said, but I'm not promising to save the day this time. Just being there is enough. The meeting was at Jean-Claude's private office, a beautiful old building near the opera. When they arrived, both Jean-Claude and Philippe were already there, along with 2 other men Mia didn't recognize. Ethan, thank you for coming on such short notice. Jean-Claude looked stressed. And Mademoiselle Lawson, I did not expect you, but perhaps that is good. We could use some calming presence. The problem, as they explained it, was simple and complicated at once. One of Bellamy's early investors, a man named Richard Stern, held enough shares to essentially veto the deal. He was demanding twice the agreed-upon buyout price for his shares, knowing that without his approval, the whole acquisition would collapse. He's holding you hostage, Mia said without thinking. All 4 men turned to look at her. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to... No, you're right, Felipe said. That's exactly what he's doing. And we don't know how to break the stalemate. What does he want? Mia asked. I mean really want. Not just the money. There has to be something else. People don't blow up deals worth this much just for a bigger payout. Jean-Claude frowned, considering. He's been with the company since the beginning, 23 years. He and our founder were close friends. And now you're selling to someone he doesn't know, Mia said slowly. Someone American. Someone who he probably thinks is going to gut the company he helped build. Ethan leaned forward. You think this is about loyalty, not money? I think it's about fear. He's scared of what happens to his friend's legacy, and throwing money at fear doesn't make it go away. The room went quiet. So what do we do? Philippe asked. We cannot negotiate with fear. No, Ethan said, looking at Mia with something like wonder. But we can address it. 20 minutes later, they had a plan. Not a perfect plan, but a real one. Ethan would meet with Richard Stern directly, without lawyers or intermediaries. He'd explain his vision for Bellamy, not the financial projections or market analysis, but the actual human reason he wanted to preserve the company. And he'd offer Stern a seat on the board, a voice in major decisions, a way to ensure his friend's legacy stayed intact. It might not work, Jean-Claude said. Richard is stubborn. Then I'll convince him, Ethan said. Because walking away isn't an option. The meeting broke up shortly after. As they left the building, Ethan pulled Mia aside. How do you do that? He asked. Do what? See through the noise to what actually matters. Everyone in that room was focused on the money and the contracts. You went straight to the emotional truth. That's just how people work. Everything is emotional, even when it pretends to be logical. She smiled. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe, but you figured it out in 5 minutes. He kissed her forehead. Thank you. They grabbed dinner at a quiet bistro, both emotionally exhausted from the day. Over wine and steak frites, they talked about everything except the looming deadline of Sunday morning. Tell me about your mom, Ethan said. The teacher in Chicago. What's she like? Mia smiled. She's the best person I know. Patient, kind, always sees the good in people even when they don't deserve it. She taught me that taking care of others isn't a job. It's who you are. She sounds amazing. She is. I wish you could meet her. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Meeting parents was serious. Meeting parents meant futures and plans and things that existed beyond stolen days in Paris. Maybe I will, Ethan said quietly. Someday. Yeah, maybe. They walked back to the hotel slowly, taking the long route through streets that had become familiar over the past few days. When they reached the lobby, neither moved toward the elevators. Come up with me, Ethan said, just to talk. I'm not ready to say goodnight yet. Mia knew she should say no. Knew going to his room would blur lines that were already dangerously blurred. But she also knew she didn't want to be alone. Okay, she said, just to talk. His suite was bigger than hers, with a living area separate from the bedroom. They sat on the couch, and Ethan poured them each a glass of wine from the minibar. 2 more days, he said, staring into his glass. I know. I don't want you to go. I know that too. What if... He stopped, shook his head. Never mind. What if what? It's crazy. We're already past crazy. Just say it. Ethan set down his wine and turned to face her fully. What if you didn't go back? What if you stayed here? In New York, I mean. With me. Mia's heart stopped. Ethan, I know it's insane. I know we barely know each other, but I also know I can't imagine my life without you in it now, and I have the resources to make it work. You could still be a nanny if you want, or you could do something else, or nothing at all. I'd take care of everything. You'd take care of me. Yes, like I'm another responsibility, another person who needs providing for. His expression shifted. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Ethan, you're so used to solving problems with money that you can't see when money isn't the solution. Mia stood, pacing. I don't need you to take care of me. I need to take care of myself. That's who I am. I'm not trying to take that away. So sure. Yes, you are. You're offering me a life where I don't have to work, don't have to struggle, don't have to be independent. And maybe that sounds great on paper, but it's not what I want. Then what do you want? His voice rose, frustration breaking through. Because I'm trying to figure out how to keep you, and you're acting like that's an insult. Because you're not trying to keep me. You're trying to keep the version of me that fits into your life. The one who doesn't have responsibilities or dreams or a whole existence outside of you. That's not fair. Isn't it? You talk about wanting me in your life, but you haven't asked me what I want my life to look like. You just assumed I'd give up everything to be with you. Ethan stood too, running his hands through his hair. I'm doing this wrong. I know I'm doing this wrong. I'm not good at this. At feelings and relationships and saying the right thing. I'm good at business. At fixing problems. At making things work through sheer force of will. But this, I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it. That's the point. Mia's voice softened. Ethan, I care about you. More than I probably should, given that we've known each other for 4 days. But caring about someone doesn't mean erasing yourself to be with them. I don't want you to erase yourself. Then what do you want? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. I want to wake up next to you. I want to introduce you to Noah. I want to build something with you that isn't temporary or conditional. He stopped, his throat working. I want to stop being so alone all the time. Mia's anger dissolved. She crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. You're not alone right now. I will be when you leave. Maybe. Or maybe we figure out a way to make this work that doesn't require me to give up who I am. How? I don't know yet, but we have 2 more days to try. Ethan pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. They stood like that for a long time, holding on to each other like they could stop time through sheer determination. I'm sorry, he said finally, for assuming, for trying to control something that shouldn't be controlled. I'm sorry, too, for getting defensive, for not hearing what you were actually trying to say. What was I trying to say? That you're falling for me, and you're scared. He pulled back enough to look at her. Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm scared, too, if that helps. It does, actually. They kissed, and it felt different this time. Not desperate or urgent, but tender, like a promise they were both trying to figure out how to keep. Stay tonight, Ethan whispered against her mouth. Just sleep. I just want you close. Mia knew she should go back to her own room, knew that staying would make leaving even harder, but she was tired of being sensible. Okay, she said. They lay in his bed, fully clothed, wrapped around each other in the darkness. Outside, Paris glittered and hummed, indifferent to their struggle. Tell me about your perfect day, Mia said quietly. Not a business day, just a day where everything is exactly how you want it. Ethan thought about it. I wake up without an alarm. The first thing I see is someone I love. We make breakfast together, nothing fancy, just eggs and coffee. Then we take Noah to the park. Not a fancy park, just a regular one with swings and sandbox. We let him run around until he's exhausted. Then we go home and watch a movie together, all 3 of us on the couch. And I'm not thinking about work or meetings or what needs to happen tomorrow. I'm just there, present, happy. Mia's eyes stung. That's a good day. What's yours? Pretty similar, actually, but I'm at the park with Owen, or maybe my own kids someday, and afterward we bake something messy in the kitchen, cookies or brownies, and there's flour everywhere and we're laughing, and it doesn't matter that it's a disaster because that's what makes it perfect. We want the same things, Ethan said, wonder in his voice. Just normal, small, beautiful things. Yeah, we do. So why does it feel impossible? Because wanting the same thing isn't the same as knowing how to build it together. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, both dreaming of a future they couldn't quite see but desperately wanted to reach. Morning came too soon. Mia woke to find Ethan already awake, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Hi, she said softly. Hi. He brushed hair from her face. I have to tell you something. Her stomach dropped. Okay. I'm meeting with Richard Stern this morning, the investor, and then I have the final contract signing with Jean-Claude this afternoon. That's good. That's what you wanted. Yeah, but it means I'll be in meetings most of the day. He looked genuinely upset. On our last full day together. Last full day. The words hit her like cold water. It's okay, she said, even though it wasn't. This is important. Go. Close your deal. Save Bellamy. Come with me. To the signing, at least. Jean-Claude specifically asked if you'd be there. Why? Because apparently you're good luck, and because they like you. He smiled slightly. Everyone likes you. Okay, I'll come. They spent the morning apart. Ethan at his meeting with Stern, Mia wandering Paris alone for the first time. She walked through neighborhoods they'd explored together, seeing them with different eyes now. Everything felt bittersweet, like she was already mourning something she hadn't lost yet. Her phone rang. Her mom. "Hey, sweetheart, how's Paris?" "Complicated." "What happened?" Mia found a bench and told her everything. The meetings, the feelings, Ethan's offer, her fears. Her mom listened without interrupting. Then, "Do you love him?" "I don't know, maybe. It's only been 4 days." 4 days or 4 years, love is love. The question is whether you love him enough to fight for it. Fight for it how? Our lives don't fit together. Then make them fit. Mia, honey, you've spent your whole life taking care of other people. Other people's kids, other people's dreams. When are you going to fight for your own happiness? What if I'm wrong? What if this is just some fantasy and the real world ruins it? What if you're right, and walking away is the biggest mistake you ever make? Mia sat with that question long after the call ended. What if? At 2 o'clock, she met Ethan at Jean-Claude's office for the final signing. The mood was celebratory. Richard Stern had agreed to the terms after Ethan's meeting, accepting both the board seat and a personal assurance that Bellamy's mission would remain intact. "You convinced him," Jean-Claude said, shaking Ethan's hand. "I did not think it was possible." "I had good advice." Ethan glanced at Mia. The actual signing took less than an hour. Papers were passed around, signatures collected, champagne poured. Felipe gave a toast about new beginnings and honoring the past. "To Bellamy," he said, raising his glass, "and to the people who fight for what matters." Everyone drank. Afterward, as they were leaving, Jean-Claude pulled Mia aside. "Mademoiselle Lawson, may I say something perhaps too personal?" "Of course." "I have known many powerful men in my career, men who build empires and change industries, but I have never seen one transform the way Ethan has in these few days with you." He smiled kindly. "Whatever you two are building, I hope you do not give up on it too easily. The world needs more people who remind men like him what truly matters." Mia's throat went tight. "Thank you. And if you ever need anything, a reference, a connection, anything at all, you call me." "Yes?" "Yes. Thank you." Ethan was waiting outside, and the look on his face when he saw her made her heart ache. "One more night," he said. "One more night. Let's make it count." They didn't talk about tomorrow. Not during the dinner Ethan had arranged at a restaurant overlooking the Seine, candlelight flickering between them like a timer counting down. Not during the walk afterward through streets they'd come to know, each corner holding a memory from the last impossible days. Not when they returned to the hotel and stood in the hallway between their rooms, both knowing that crossing one threshold or the other meant admitting this was ending. "Come in," Mia said finally, unlocking her door. "I don't want to be alone tonight." Inside, Paris spread out below them through the floor-to-ceiling windows, indifferent and beautiful. Ethan pulled her close, his chin resting on top of her head, and they stood like that for a long time. "I keep trying to find a solution," he said quietly. "Some way to make the logistics work. I could get you an apartment in New York. You could keep working as a nanny if you want, or I could help you start something new. We could see each other on weekends, or I could fly you out when I travel." "Ethan, I know that's not what you want, but I can't just let you walk away without trying everything." Mia pulled back to look at him. What if trying everything means letting go? His face crumpled slightly, then reformed into that controlled mask she'd come to recognize. "I don't know how to do that." "Me neither." She touched his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. "But maybe we have to." "Why? Why does it have to end just because it's hard? Because I can't be the person you need me to be. And you can't be the person I need you to be. Not right now. Maybe not ever." Her voice cracked. "You need someone who can fit into your world without losing themselves. And I need someone who can meet me in mine. And I don't think we know how to do either of those things yet." Ethan's hands tightened on her waist. "So that's it? We just give up?" "I'm not giving up. I'm being realistic." Mia stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself. "Ethan, you have a son, a company, responsibilities that aren't going to disappear just because you met someone. And I have a life too, kids who depend on me, a mom who needs me, a whole existence that matters even if it doesn't look important compared to billion-dollar deals." "I never said it wasn't important. You didn't have to. Every solution you've proposed has me changing my life to fit yours. Moving, switching jobs,
Being available when you need me. She shook her head. That's not partnership. That's you trying to acquire me like one of your companies. The words hit him visibly. He sank onto the edge of the bed, head in his hands. You're right. You're completely right, and I hate it. I know. I don't know how to do this differently. I don't know how to want something without trying to control every variable. He looked up at her, eyes red. But I'm willing to learn, if you'll teach me. Mia sat beside him, taking his hand. I can't teach you that. You have to figure it out yourself. Then help me figure it out. How? Stay. Not here in Paris, but in my life, however that looks. We'll figure out the distance and the logistics and all the impossible parts. But don't walk away from this, please. She wanted to say yes so badly it physically hurt, wanted to believe they could make it work through sheer determination and feeling. But she'd watched too many relationships crumble under the weight of incompatible lives. Had seen her own father choose work over presence until the gap became too wide to cross. What about Noah? She asked quietly. Ethan blinked, thrown by the change in direction. What about him? If we do this, if we try long distance or whatever version of this we can manage, he's going to be part of it. And he's 5 years old. He's at the age where he gets attached easily and doesn't understand when people leave. I wouldn't introduce you until I knew it was serious. It's already serious, and kids aren't stupid. He'll figure out you're seeing someone. He'll want to meet me. And then what happens when it doesn't work out? When the distance is too much, or we realize we were caught up in a Paris fantasy, he's the one who gets hurt. Ethan's face went pale. I haven't thought about that. I know. Because you're thinking about what you want right now, not what's best for him long term. Mia squeezed his hand. And I get it. I want this too, but wanting isn't enough when there's a child involved. They sat in heavy silence, the weight of reality crushing the bubble they'd been living in. So what are you saying? Ethan's voice was barely audible. That it's over? That we just go back to our lives and pretend this never happened? I'm saying maybe we need to be honest about what this is. A beautiful, impossible thing that happened because I boarded the wrong plane and you decided not to throw me off it. A gift, but not a forever thing. What if I want it to be forever? Then you have to figure out how to make room for forever in your actual life. Not the life you wish you had, the one you're actually living. Mia stood, moving to the window. You told me you wanted to be a better father, that you wanted to be present for Noah. But how are you going to do that if you're trying to maintain a long-distance relationship with someone who lives in a different city? You'll be splitting yourself even thinner than you already are. So I should choose between you and him. You should choose him every time, without question. She turned to face him. And if you don't understand why, then we're not ready for this anyway. Ethan stood, crossing to her. You're testing me. I'm being realistic. No, you're pushing me away before I can disappoint you, before I can turn into your father. His eyes were fierce. But I'm not him, Mia. I'm willing to do the work, to change, to be better. Are you? Or do you just want to be the kind of person who would do those things? She held his gaze. Because there's a difference, and until you figure out which one you are, this can't work. The truth of it hung between them, sharp and undeniable. Ethan's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again and again. You should get that, Mia said. It can wait. Can it? He pulled out the phone, his expression tightening as he read. It's Mrs. Chen, Noah's nanny. He's asking for me. Having a hard time going to sleep. Then call him. It's the middle of the night there. He's awake, and he needs you. Mia's voice was gentle but firm. Call your son, Ethan. He hesitated, torn between the moment with her and the need on the other end of the line. Then he stepped into the bathroom, closing the door. Mia could hear his voice through the door, soft and tender in a way she'd never heard before. Hey, buddy. Yeah, I know it's late. I miss you too. What? No, there aren't pterodactyls in Paris, but I saw a really cool bird today that looked kind of like one. She sat on the bed, listening, and felt her heart break and heal at the same time. This was who he could be, who he was, under all the armor, a father who loved his son, a man who wanted to be better. But wanting and doing were different things. When Ethan came back, his eyes were wet. He asked me when I'm coming home. What did you tell him? Tomorrow night. I'm flying back tomorrow night. That's good. Is it?
He sat beside her again. Because all I can think about is that coming home means leaving you.
You're not leaving me. You're going to your son. Who needs you more than I do? That doesn't make this hurt less.
I know.
Mia leaned her head on his shoulder. But it's still the right thing to do. They lay down together, fully clothed again, holding each other in the darkness. Outside, Paris began to quiet, the city settling into the small hours. Tell me a story, Ethan said, about the future, one where this works out.
Mia closed her eyes, imagining. Okay, you go home tomorrow and you're really present with Noah. Not just physically there, but actually engaged. You play dinosaurs with him. You read him stories. You remember what it feels like to just be dad, not CEO Ethan Blake. And you? I go back to Brooklyn, to Owen and my tiny apartment in my normal life. But I don't forget this. I don't forget you. How long until we see each other again?
I don't know. Maybe a few weeks, maybe months. You're busy closing the Bellamy deal. I'm busy with work. We text sometimes, call when we can. But we're not trying to force it into something it's not ready to be. I hate this story. Wait, there's more. She smiled in the darkness. Eventually, you figure out how to balance things better. You hire people you trust so you don't have to control every detail. You take weekends off. You show up for Noah's school events. And one day you realize you're actually happy. Not just content, actually happy. And then maybe you call me and we try again. But this time it's not rushed or desperate. It's just two people who care about each other figuring out if their lives can actually fit together. Does it work? In your story? I don't know yet. We haven't gotten there. Ethan pulled her closer. I want to get there. Then do the work to get there. Not for me, for yourself, for Noah. What if I do all that and you've moved on? What if I become the person I need to be and you're already with someone else? Mia turned to face him, their noses almost touching in the darkness. Then I guess it wasn't meant to be. And that would hurt like hell. But at least you'd still have become that person. That would still matter. You're very wise for someone who accidentally boards the wrong plane. She laughed, the sound thick with unshed tears. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. They fell asleep tangled together, both pretending they had more time than they did. Morning came brutal and bright. Mia woke first, watching Ethan sleep. He looked younger like this, the constant tension erased from his features. She memorized his face, knowing this might be the last time she saw it like this. When his eyes opened, the first thing he said was, "Don't go." I have to. I know, but I needed to say it anyway. They got ready in silence, the weight of goodbye pressing down on everything. Ethan had arranged for a car to take her to the airport. Her flight left at 2, his left at 7. Come with me, he said as she packed her small bag. Fly back to New York. We could have a few more hours. And make it harder? No. She zipped the bag. Clean breaks are better. Who says? Everyone who's ever had their heart broken. They went down to breakfast, but neither could eat. The coffee tasted bitter. The pastries sat untouched. At noon, the car arrived. They stood in the hotel lobby, the same place where this had all started to feel real. Other guests moved around them, oblivious to the small tragedy playing out in their midst. I'm not good at this, Ethan said, at letting people go. I know. I want to ask you to stay again, even though I know you'll say no. Then don't ask. What if this is a mistake? What if we're giving up on something that could have been everything? Mia's eyes filled with tears. Or what if we're being smart enough to recognize that timing matters, that wanting something isn't enough if you're not ready for it? I hate that you're right. I hate it too. He pulled her into his arms, and she let herself break a little bit. Let the tears come. Let herself feel the full weight of walking away from something that felt like it could have been magic. Thank you, Ethan said into her hair, for boarding the wrong plane, for saving my meeting, for reminding me what it feels like to be human. Thank you for not throwing me off the plane, for showing me Paris, for being more than I expected. She pulled back, wiping her eyes, and for being brave enough to let me go. I'm not brave. I'm terrified. Being terrified and doing it anyway is the definition of brave. They kissed one last time, soft and sad, and full of everything they weren't saying.
Then Mia picked up her bag and walked to the car without looking back. If she looked back, she'd lose her nerve. She'd run back inside and beg him to find a way to make it work. Logistics be damned. But she didn't look back. The drive to the airport was a blur. She checked in mechanically, went through security in a daze, found her gate, and sat staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. I know you said clean breaks are better, but I need you to know something. This week changed my life. You changed my life. And whatever happens next, I'm grateful for that. She typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on, me too, take care of yourself. And Noah, he's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one. Safe travels, Mia. The flight home was quiet. The first-class seat Ethan had booked felt too big, too empty. She stared out the window as they flew over the Atlantic, retracing the path that had started this whole impossible thing. When she landed at JFK, reality hit hard. Her phone had a dozen texts from her mom, from Rebecca, from friends who'd heard she'd extended her trip. Everyone wanting to know about Paris. She told them it was beautiful, magical, life-changing. She didn't tell them about the man who'd made it all those things. Brooklyn felt smaller than she remembered. Her apartment felt cramped after the hotel suite. But it was home, familiar and comfortable and hers. She threw herself back into work. Owen was thrilled to see her, demanding to know if she'd seen the Eiffel Tower, and if it was really as big as in pictures. She told him stories about Paris, editing out the parts that made her chest ache. Rebecca didn't press for details, but she watched Mia with knowing eyes. You okay? I will be. That's not the same as being okay now. I know. The days bled together. Work, home, sleep. She talked to her mom, who'd somehow figured out there was more to the Paris story than Mia was saying. When you're ready to tell me about him, I'm here. How did you know there was a him? Because I'm your mother, and because I know what it sounds like when someone's trying not to cry while talking about the Louvre. 2 weeks passed, then 3. Mia checked her phone constantly, both hoping and dreading a message from Ethan. None came. She told herself it was good. Clean break, remember? No messy long-distance attempts. No false hope. It still hurt. Then, 4 weeks after Paris, her phone rang at 8 p.m. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mia? A small voice. Not Ethan. This is Noah. Her heart stopped. Noah? How did you get this number? From my dad's phone. He doesn't know I called, but I needed to ask you something. Okay. She sat down, mind racing. What do you need to ask? Are you the reason my dad's different? Different how? He's home more now, like actually home. Not just in his office on calls. He plays with me. We went to the park 3 times this week, and he laughs more. The little boy's voice got quieter. I heard him tell someone you made him want to be better. Was that you? Mia's eyes burned. Yeah, buddy, that was me. Are you his girlfriend? It's complicated. That's what adults say when the answer is yes, but they don't want to say it. He sounded so much like Ethan, it made her smile through tears. Do you like him? Very much. Does he like you? I think so. Then why aren't you here? He's sad when he thinks I'm not looking. I can tell. Sometimes people like each other, but the timing isn't right. It's hard to explain. My dad says hard things are the most important things, and that you don't give up just because something's difficult. Noah paused. He was talking about his work, but maybe it's true for other stuff too? Maybe it is. Mia's throat felt tight. Noah, where's your dad right now? Taking a shower. I should probably hang up before he finds out I took his phone. Yeah, you probably should, but Noah? Thank you for calling me. It means a lot. Okay, bye, Mia. Bye, sweetie. She sat staring at her phone for a long time after he hung up. 5 minutes later, it rang again. This time it was Ethan. I'm so sorry, he said immediately. Noah just confessed he called you from my phone. I had no idea. Whatever he said, he asked if I was the reason you're different. Ethan went quiet. What did you tell him? The truth. That I was. She took a breath. Ethan, what's happening? Why are you home more? Why are you actually playing with him? Because you were right. About everything. About me hiding behind work. About needing to figure out how to be present. His voice was rough. So I've been figuring it out. I promoted 2 people I trust to handle day-to-day operations. I blocked off my calendar from 6 to 9 every night for Noah. No calls, no emails, just us. And it's been really good. I'm glad. Are you? Because I did all this thinking it would prove something, that if I became the person you needed me to be, maybe we could try again. But you haven't called, haven't texted, and I've been too afraid to reach out because what if you've moved on? What if I haven't moved on? You haven't? No. I've been waiting, I guess, to see if you'd actually do the work or if it was just talk. She smiled. Sounds like you did the work. I'm still doing it, every day. It's hard as hell. And sometimes I want to fall back into old patterns. But then I think about you and what you said about choosing Noah, about being present. And I keep trying. That's all anyone can do. Keep trying. Mia, I know we said we needed time and space, and I respect that. But I need to know, is there still a chance? For us? She thought about all the reasons to say no. The distance, the different worlds, the risk of it not working out, and the pain that would follow. Then she thought about Noah's voice on the phone, about Ethan choosing to change, about the story she'd told him in Paris where they tried again when they were ready. Yeah, she said softly, I think there's still a chance. Yeah? But it has to be slow and real, not grand gestures or you trying to fix everything with money. Just 2 people getting to know each other when they're not stuck on a plane or living in a Paris bubble. I can do slow. I'm not great at it, but I can try. And I need to meet Noah, properly. Not as some secret girlfriend, but as someone important in your life. If we're doing this, he needs to be part of it from the beginning. He'd love that. He's already decided your magic because you calmed Jean-Claude's grandkids. Mia laughed. How does he know about that? I may have mentioned it once or 12 times. You made quite an impression. On the kids or on you? Both. Definitely both. They talked for 2 hours, making plans. Ethan would come to New York the following weekend. They'd take Noah to the park, get ice cream, see if the 3 of them could actually work as a unit. No pressure, just possibility. I'm nervous, Ethan admitted. What if he doesn't like you? Then we figure it out. But Ethan, I'm pretty good with kids. It's kind of my thing. I know, I want this to work so badly. Me too. But wanting it isn't enough. We have to build it, day by day, choice by choice. When did you get so wise? I've always been this wise. You were just too busy being controlling to notice. He laughed, and the sound made her chest warm. I missed this. I missed you. I missed you too. That weekend, Ethan flew to New York with Noah. They met at Central Park on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Noah was smaller than Mia expected, with Ethan's gray eyes and a gap-toothed smile that melted her heart instantly. You're Mia, he announced. My dad talks about you all the time. Noah, Ethan said, his ears going red. What? You do. You said she's the smartest person you know, and she's really good with kids, and she makes you laugh. Mia grinned at Ethan's embarrassment. Did he now? Don't encourage him. They spent the afternoon together, and it was easier than Mia expected. Noah was bright and funny and asked a million questions. He wanted to know everything about her, what her favorite dinosaur was, if she liked space, whether she thought chocolate or vanilla was better. They played on the swings, fed ducks, got ice cream that dripped everywhere. And through it all, Mia watched Ethan, the way he was fully present with Noah, the way he laughed at the kids' terrible jokes, the way he included Mia naturally in their dynamic without making it forced. He'd really done the work. As the sun started to set, Noah ran ahead to the fountain, giving Ethan and Mia a moment alone. How am I doing? Ethan asked nervously. You're doing great. He's wonderful. He likes you. I can tell. I like him too. She slipped her hand into his. This is nice. Scary, but nice. Terrifying, but worth it. Noah ran back, tugging on Ethan's hand. Dad, can Mia come to dinner with us, please? Ethan looked at Mia, hopeful. Can you? Yeah, I can. Dinner was at a family-friendly Italian place where Noah ordered spaghetti and proceeded to get sauce everywhere. Ethan handled it with patience Mia wouldn't have expected a month ago. He helped Noah clean up, told him it was okay, didn't get stressed about the mess. As they walked back to Ethan's car, Noah between them, the little boy reached up and took both their hands. "This is nice," he said. "The three of us." Mia's eyes met Ethan's over Noah's head. "Yeah," Ethan said softly.
"It really is." They didn't rush things. Over the next few months, Ethan came to New York every other weekend. Sometimes Mia would visit them. They built something slowly and carefully, making room for each other in their actual lives instead of trying to create some fantasy version. Mia met Ethan's business partners. He met her mom. Noah started asking when Mia was coming over, saving drawings to show her. It wasn't perfect. There were hard conversations about boundaries and expectations, about what Mia needed and what Ethan could realistically give, about how to blend their different worlds without either of them losing themselves. But they kept showing up for each other, kept choosing this, kept doing the work. 6 months after Paris, Ethan asked Mia to move in with them. "I know it's a big step," he said, "and I know you love your independence, but we have a guest room you could use as your own space. You could keep working with Owen if you want, or try something new. No pressure, just us trying to build something real." Mia thought about it for a week, talked to her mom, talked to Rebecca, made a list of pros and cons that didn't actually help. In the end, she said yes, not because Ethan asked, but because she wanted to. Because this thing they'd built felt solid enough to bet on. Moving in was chaos. Her small apartment's worth of stuff looked ridiculous in Ethan's penthouse. But Noah was thrilled, helping her unpack while providing commentary on everything. "This stuffed elephant is really old," he observed. "My mom gave it to me when I was your age." "Cool. Does it have a name?" "Peanut. That's a weird name for an elephant." Noah considered this. "I like it." That first night after Noah was in bed, Ethan and Mia stood in the kitchen that was now theirs. "This is really happening," Mia said. "Having second thoughts?" "About 100, but I'm staying anyway." "Good. Because I already converted the closet in your room, and there's no going back." "You did what?" He grinned. "Kidding, mostly." They settled into a rhythm. It wasn't always smooth. There were arguments about space and schedules, about Mia feeling like she was intruding and Ethan overcompensating by trying to give her everything, about Noah getting jealous when he had to share his dad's attention. But they worked through it, all of it, with honesty and patience and a commitment to actually hearing each other. A year after Paris, they went back, all three of them. Ethan had business there anyway, and Mia wanted to show Noah the city that had changed everything. They stayed at the same hotel, ate at the same restaurants, walked the same streets, but it was different now, not desperate or urgent, just right. On their last night, after Noah was asleep in the adjoining room, Ethan and Mia stood at the window of their suite, looking out at the glittering city. "Do you remember standing here that first night?" Ethan asked, "when you thought you were leaving the next day?" "I remember thinking this was the craziest thing that had ever happened to me. And now? Now it's just life. Crazy, complicated, beautiful life." He pulled a small box from his pocket. "I have something for you." Mia's heart jumped. "Ethan, it's not what you think. Well, it is. But also it isn't." He opened the box to reveal a simple gold ring. "I'm not proposing, not yet. We said slow, and I'm sticking to that. But I wanted you to have something that says I'm committed to this, to us, to building something that lasts. It's beautiful. It's a promise that I'll keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep choosing you and Noah every day, even when it's hard." He took the ring out and slipped it on her right hand. "What do you say? Will you keep choosing us too?" Mia looked at the ring, then at him, then out at Paris spread below them. A year ago, she'd stood in this spot terrified of losing something she'd barely found. Now she stood here terrified of how much she had to lose. But she'd learned that the fear was part of it, that building something real meant risking everything, that love wasn't about certainty. It was about choosing to show up even when you weren't sure of the outcome. "Yeah," she said, reaching up to kiss him. "I'll keep choosing us." The next morning, they took Noah to the Luxembourg Gardens. He ran ahead to the fountain while Ethan and Mia walked hand in hand behind him. "Thank you," Ethan said. "For what?" "For getting on the wrong plane, for giving me a second chance, for teaching me what actually matters." Mia squeezed his hand. "Thank you for not throwing me off." They laughed, and Noah turned around to look at them, puzzled by the private joke he'd heard a dozen times but never understood.
What's so funny? He called. Nothing, buddy, Ethan called back. Just remembering how we met. You met on a plane, right? That's boring. It was a little more complicated than that. Everything's complicated with you guys, Noah said with the certainty of a 6-year-old who'd figured out the world. Then he ran off to chase pigeons. Ethan and Mia watched him go, then looked at each other. He's not wrong, Mia said. No, he's not, but the complicated things are usually the most worthwhile. Is that a business philosophy? It's a life philosophy, one I learned from someone very wise who accidentally boarded my plane. They sat on the same bench where they'd sat a year ago, talking about impossible futures. Except now, the future didn't feel impossible. It felt real and achievable and right there in front of them. Noah came running back, out of breath and grinning. Can we get crepes? Yeah, we can get crepes, Ethan said. Can Mia pick the flavor? She always picks good ones. Sure, buddy. As they walked toward the crepe stand, Noah between them holding both their hands, Mia thought about all the choices that had led here. The exhaustion that made her board the wrong plane, Ethan's decision not to turn around mid-flight, her choice to stay in Paris, his commitment to change. None of it had been easy. None of it had been certain. But all of it had been worth it. Because sometimes the best things in life started with mistakes, with wrong turns that led to right places, with strangers who became family. And sometimes, if you were very lucky and very brave, those mistakes became the story you'd tell for the rest of your life. The one that started with, I got on the wrong plane, and ended with, and it was the best mistake I ever made. Years later, when Noah was 12 and asking about how his dad and Mia got together, they'd tell him the whole story, about Paris and meetings and 2 people who almost gave up before they started. That's kind of crazy, Noah would say. Yeah, Mia would agree, looking at Ethan across the dinner table of the home they'd built together. It really was. But good crazy. The best kind. And Ethan, who'd learned that control was an illusion and that the best things in life were the ones you couldn't plan for, would smile and say, the very best kind. Because boarding the wrong plane had taught them something neither expected to learn. That love wasn't about having all the answers or making everything perfect. It was about showing up, doing the work, and choosing each other even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. And that was a lesson worth learning. Even if it started 30,000 feet in the air with a stranger asking, "You're in my seat."